Good afternoon, everybody. It's 12:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is episode 131 of MCRAE Live. I'm coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. And today, I want to talk something a little different. It's been on my mind a little bit lately. And I want to see what you guys have to say about it. Let's do that one more time, shall we? I like that intro. It's too short. I should extend it. Hope you guys are having a great Thursday. Ordinarily, I do these shows at 11 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. But of course, I had to do it at noon today. True crime. We're talking true crime. Do you watch it? Do you like it? Do you care about it? 48 Hours, Dateline, 2020, Crime Watch Daily, independent documentaries. Do you watch true crime? Do you watch movies based on true crime? But we're not talking about the movies today. I want to talk about just real life sort of documentaries, whether it's, you know, the shows 48 Hours or Dateline 2020. There's that other one, Crime Watch Daily, of course. You can watch these things on YouTube as well. And I'm somebody that has always been fascinated by true crime. I've always been, I don't want to say into it, but I've always been into it, I guess. I find it interesting. I mean, and it never ceases to amaze me. You know, and let's put politics aside. I know people are making, you know, quips in the chat room about how, you know, oh, you know, just look at America right now and what happened at the Capitol and all. I don't care about that right now. I just wanted to, with all due respect, I want to talk about the true crime in the sense of shit that goes down in terms of, you know, murders that happen in the suburbs and families and just, it's crazy when you watch these documentaries and or these news shows. And to be fair, because they are American, 48 Hours, Dateline, 2020, Crime Watch Daily, the vast majority, well, all of them really, all of their stories, generally speaking, take place in the United States. You know, you guys have 320-something million people down there. Obviously, the higher the population, we know the gun laws. I'm not here to argue whether guns should be illegal or not. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when you have the kind of laws that you have in the United States, obviously that opens up room for more crime with certain things. A lot of the weapons can be illegally obtained. Of course, we know that. But naturally, of course, and it's not that we don't have murders here in Canada. We aren't the snowflake, peaceful country. I mean, in comparison, maybe, but we have, listen, there's probably about between 80 and 100 homicides a year in Toronto alone. That might seem really small if you live in Chicago, where there's something like 700 a year or something ridiculous like that. But that may surprise some of you being Canadian from Canada, that Toronto in Canada has like 80 to 100 homicides a year. That might surprise some of my southern neighbors going, really? Well, I didn't think Canada did that. Yeah, no, Canada's listen, every country's got their murders and crimes and all that kind of stuff. It's just relative to their population and what have you. Toronto, being the fourth largest city in North America, funny enough, actually is one of the cleanest, safest cities for its size. That being said, I'm into true crime and I like watching it. And I find myself sometimes getting into it at like midnight before I'm heading to bed, or maybe I'm up late and I watch something at 1 o'clock in the morning, you know, and I'm there, and I'm somebody that can watch the creepiest, eeriest fucking thing in the world, the most disturbing thing in the world, and then go to bed. Are you like that? Are you somebody that can watch like the creepiest, eeriest thing in the world and then just go to bed? I watched Terrifier, which of course, if you haven't seen it, it's pretty darn gruesome. If you have seen it, you know it's very gruesome. I watched it and then I went to bed, slept like a baby. For whatever reason, I have no issues doing that. It's not that certain things don't stay with me. If it's a movie, like it's an actual movie, right? It doesn't. No issues there. True crime can stay with me a little bit longer, but movies don't generally bother me. Maybe if I was younger, I don't know. Anyways, it's amazing how fucked up the world is. And I just want to say this, okay? I just want to say this to all the men out there, because it's usually men. It's usually men, not that women don't do it, but it's usually men. If you are in a relationship that you are not happy being in, just get out. Listen, it's easier said than done, certainly when you're married and there's, divorce involved and children involved. But for Christ's sakes, don't be a little bitch. Don't be a little bitch and murder your wife. Just don't do it. Okay? If you're thinking about that, you need to get out. You need to seek therapy and get out as soon as possible. Just divorce. Just walk. You don't even have to divorce. Just leave the house. Separate. Just say, honey, I'm out. I gotta go. I'm gone. Don't. It is mind-blowing to me that relationships can get so toxic, so bad, that somebody who appears to be normal and pleasant, who's never done anything like this in their entire lives, never done anything like this. There's no evidence. And listen, there are a lot of people that exhibit evidence that they're capable of this too, right? We've seen those ones, right? Where you're like, oh, well, the ex of the ex comes forward and is like, hey, I remember back like 10 years ago, he was an abusive son of a bitch. And, there's those episodes too. But we all know there's some episodes too where it's like he was just a normal guy. There's nothing wrong with it. All of a sudden he's murdering his wife and his 2 children, and he kissed his wife and his 2 children goodbye, and he went out to the garage. I was trying to do the Charlie Bowles thing and I screwed up. But we know that those things happen. And I just want to say, men, get the fuck out. Don't be a little bitch. You are a little bitch if you actually resort to murdering your wife and your children. You are a fucking scum-sucking piece of shit. Like, you're not, you are. Listen, this is going to sound bad, but especially the children, man. You are a scuzz-sucking, small penis little bitch. That's what you are. It's just I can't even, listen, relationships have, everybody who's in they have ups and downs, and there's good times and hard times, and you try to work through it together, and sometimes there's arguments and stuff. But how bad does it gotta be where the best option is not, maybe I should leave? No. I'm going to murder my family. That's what I'm going to do. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? What the hell? How toxic, how bad does it have to get that is the better option? That's the better option right there. You are a coward. You are a scuzz-sucking coward. That's what you are. I just want to say that. Okay, now that that's out of the way, come on, come on. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, man? Anyway, I find this stuff really interesting. And when I watch, and I usually find myself watching the murder ones, and I intentionally seek them out because I'm fascinated by, I guess, like, really? Like, how, and dude, like, I mean, you guys know, if you follow this shit, I mean, if it's women, usually the women, I find that usually women, if they are charged with murder or attempted murder on their spouse or whoever, I find it's usually they've gone the route of hiring somebody to do it. I find it's women that are usually doing the hiring. And there's a psychology around that too. There's reasons for that. Not that women don't pull the trigger and shoot their husbands in the head. They do. They will continue to do so. But I find that when I watch women who are charged with murder, it's more, let me rephrase that. I find that when it's a murder for hire plot, it's usually the woman that's doing it. And it's so fascinating to watch them because, they're talking to the undercover cop, right? And they're filming it and they're recording it and the woman doesn't know. And she's there and she's saying all this shit. And then when she gets into the interrogation room, she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean that at all. And she's trying to spin this thing like, lady, come on. Like, what the fuck? How bad does it have to be that your option is, I'm not going to, as hard as it is, as expensive as it might be, the better option is not to, I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to divorce my husband. And listen, it is not lost on me that sometimes women can be in abusive relationships where they are afraid to leave. I understand that. Okay. Let me first say that, because I have no doubt that may come into the chat room, that may come in the comment section below. That does exist. There are women right now, and it's usually women, okay, because of the power dynamic, physically and emotionally and mentally. It's usually women that are in an abusive relationship, whether it's emotionally, physically, sexually, where they feel trapped and they cannot get out, and they either murder their husband in self-defense, or they do it because they want out, and all this kind. I understand that those situations and scenarios exist too. But there are scenarios and situations where that isn't the case, and the woman just wants out because she's having an affair, so she decides to murder her husband. And so it's like, what are you doing? Are you kidding? And they're like $5,000 to murder their husband, like $5,000. It's insane. It's insane. So I'm usually watching the murder ones. I find interesting. The next ones I find the most interesting for me would be the disappearance ones. People that disappear unexplained. They don't know why. The one that has baffled me, and maybe you guys have heard of this, and I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty. There are hundreds of videos online where people, are deep cutting this. I have deep cutted it. I've deep cut it. I've watched all the videos. I've watched the documentaries. I've done my own little research, especially over quarantine. I was doing a lot of this. And it's one of the most famous disappearance cases. And I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but it's the disappearance of Maura Murray. Have you guys heard of her? Do you guys know about her? Fascinating, really fascinating. The only unfortunate part about that case is that it's become so saturated with theories that I think it's gotten away from what more than likely really happened. I am a firm believer in Occam's razor. And it's not that I don't believe that the weird and unusual and even ghostly things potentially exist in the world. But I am also a firm believer that 9.9 times out of 10, there are reasonable explanations for unusual occurrences. And the Maura Murray case, essentially, to give you just a Cliff Notes version of it, it happened in 2004. She was like 21 years old. She disappeared. She was a UMass student, I think. Anyway, she left. And again, I'm giving you the Cliff Notes version, okay? She left university. She told her professor or whatever that she had to go and home for a week or away for a week because there was a death in the family. That wasn't true. She drove her Saturn all the way north. She was heading somewhere. She ended up apparently hitting a tree or something on the side of the road, on a rural road. Nothing major, not bad or anything, but she, and then school bus driver goes by at like 7 o'clock in the evening, finds her there, speaks to her, says, "Do you want me to call the police?" She says, "No." "Do you want to come on my bus? I just live over here." She says, "No." He drives down the street. He calls the police anyway. The police show up and she's gone. And she's never been seen again since, ever. 17 years ago. Ever again. She's never been seen again. And it's like, now logic will tell you, well, somebody must have picked her up. When the school bus driver went down the street, somebody must have come by who didn't look, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's crazy. Do your own research on it, but it's one of the most fascinating, interesting disappearance cases I've ever seen in my life. I've ever watched in my life. And it will hook you. When you watch it and you watch everything, you will start going down the rabbit hole. The disappearance of Maura Murray, Maurry, Maura, Maura, Murray, Murry, something like that. Anyway, check it out, YouTube it, fascinating. And she's never been seen from again. And nobody knows what happened. And there's like, there's timestamps, and there's, they have, when so-and-so arrived on scene and this kind of stuff, and how there was and they asked the neighbors, they've interviewed the neighbors, and there's a whole rabbit hole of stuff. But the thing that I find frustrating is that what is the most logical thing that probably happened to her? And that probably happens to most women, young women who disappear. They're probably picked up or groomed into a situation where they're either murdered, raped and murdered, trafficked, right? That's usually what happens. It doesn't usually, and I've seen so many theories from aliens to ghosts to she ran away to Canada, and it's like, the probability of that is so low. It's so low, and people get so like into it. You know what I mean? They get so hooked on it. No, this is definitely what happened. She ran away to Canada and she's living with some guy named Bob. And it's like, no, that's not usually the pattern that we see here. What probably happened? What's the logical thing that probably happened? She didn't disappear out of thin air. That's literally impossible. We know that physically, scientifically. You cannot dematerialize into it. She didn't do that. So she didn't literally disappear. So she either walked off into the woods and died, which they scoured the area and they weren't able to find her. They haven't found anything, guys. Nothing. Zilch. Zero. Nada. They examined her car. They did all the fingerprint, everything. Nothing. It's just and of course the bus driver was questioned and examined. And they went to nothing. He was just a bus driver that literally just lived right there, and he called the police. And I mean, there's, who knows? Maybe it was the bus driver, but they searched his property. Nothing. Literally nothing. And there's so many theories, but it's fascinating. And I think one of the reason why it's such a fascinating case, the disappearance of Maura Murray, if you haven't checked it out. And again, I'm giving you the Cliff Notes version. I haven't dove deep into this because it would literally, when you start diving into it, you will see, holy shit, this would have been like a 14-part series of MCRAE Live. There's so much. So that's why I'm just giving you sort of the Cliff Notes 101, kind of what happened to her. But what I think hooks everybody is the time frame for which she disappeared. I think that's and off the face of the earth. And I think that is what really hooks everybody, is that, okay, so the bus driver speaks to her at like, let's say 7:30, right? And she's like, no, I'm fine. I've already called, she already called AAA or something like that, which the bus driver knew was a lie because there was no cell phone service in the area. And this is 2004, don't forget. So this is before smartphones. This is social media wasn't really a thing at all, actually. So he knew that was a lie. So he went and called the police, and within about it's like 7 minutes, like 7 to 10 minutes, she's gone. So between like the time that the bus driver saw her and the first cop showed up, it was like 7 minutes, totally gone. And I think that is what really fascinates most people who look into the case. It's like, listen, there's lots of women that disappear, sadly, all the time. But it's the time frame. It's like, how, and there's nothing, like literally nothing. I see Tabitha here. Maybe she was abducted by aliens or brainwashed. Maybe. But of course, Occam's razor, right? Was she abducted by aliens? No, probably not. Occam's razor tells us that it was probably somebody drove by that nobody saw and picked her up, and again, the weird thing about that is, if it was somebody that drove by and picked her up, now we got to talk about probability. And this is the other thing that makes people go, well, this doesn't make any sense. I mean, what are the chances at that moment, on that road, at that time, on that day, a scuzz-sucking piece of shit murderer just happens to drive by and pick her up? Like, talk about bad luck. Right? Like, are you kidding me? At that moment, a murderer drives by, and hey, it happens. But that's enough. But again, it's about probability, right? And it's like, really, what are the chances? And that makes people feel it's a really fascinating case. If you want to dive into it, YouTube Maura Murray, Maura or Maura Murray. I think it's Maura Murray. YouTube that shit. Really strange, really fascinating, really fascinating. The other thing that I was really into, and is the maybe you've heard of this one too. And she disappeared, but she was found dead, actually. happened in 2013 in Los Angeles at the Cecil Hotel. Now, if you guys know anything about the Cecil Hotel, which I've walked by the way, it's closed now. It's still there, of course. The Cecil Hotel is in it's literally a block or two away from Skid Row in LA. And if you know what Skid Row is, that's essentially like several blocks of homeless people that have pitched tents in downtown LA. If you've never been to Los Angeles, the dichotomy of this is the contrast, I should say, is fascinating. So you have Hollywood, which of course, you know, the Hollywood Hills and the mansions and the money and the power, and you literally drive, is it south? I think it's south. You drive south, like, you know, half an hour to downtown LA. You got the big skyscrapers. It's pretty. You walk a few blocks further south and you come to a really seedy, shitty area, a very dangerous area of LA that I wouldn't be caught down there at night. Let's just say that. And it's like block after block after block of tents that have been pinched. They pinched these tents, but there's these tents all over the place from homeless people, drug addicts, and God knows what else that are. You could fucking Google Earth this shit. You can look it up. YouTube Skid Row. But the contrast between the wealthy up in the Hollywood Hills, you know, to the extreme, right? It's one end of the spectrum to the other. You have the extreme wealthy, like, you know, millions and millions of dollars, right? All the way down to, you know, pennies, you know, at the bottom of Skid Row. It's wild. Anyway, the Cecil Hotel, which was opened in like the 30s or something, or the late 20s, is known for shit going down there. It was a beautiful hotel when it first opened, but there's been a lot of suicides there, like a lot of suicides there, like over 10 or 12. There's been murders there. What's his face? Ramirez, the Night Stalker from the 80s, he lived there. And when he did his murder spree in Los Angeles, like fucking, it's crazy, right? So anyway, in 2013, the Cecil Hotel was still open. Crazy. And there was, it was divided. Like the top couple of floors, I think, were like residences or something, and some of them were hotels. Anyway, so this girl named Elisa Lam, I don't know if you've heard of her. She was a Canadian Chinese girl from Vancouver. Anyway, she suffered from a lot of mental health things. I shouldn't say that. She was potentially bipolar. She was on medication, but certainly functional, right? Anyway, giving you the Cliff Notes version, long story short, she decides to do a Southern California trip on her own or whatever. And when she ends up in LA, she goes to the Cecil Hotel. And, you know, if she'd done her due diligence and research, she probably would know that's not the best, but it's cheap. It's also cheap, right? So she's staying there. That's where she's staying. And she goes missing. And nobody knows what happened to her. She goes missing. And she's found dead on the roof in the water towers of the hotel, like 3 weeks later. And only found in there because the people in the hotel who were staying there were starting to complain that the water was tasting weird. Oh, can you imagine? Yeah, the water was tasting weird, right? And had like a weird color to it or something. That's supposedly what they said. So one of the maintenance guy goes up to the roof, opens up one of the water towers up there, one of those old school type, you know, water towers. And sure enough, there is her dead body floating in it. Now, here's the thing. So there was a elevator surveillance thing that was released of Elisa Lam acting very strange. And I've done some deep cuts on this. So has my girlfriend and I have actually done some deep cuts on this. We were fascinated by this case. And we've come to the conclusion on our own, and we're no experts, of course, but we've come to the conclusion on our own that she was more than likely murdered. And there was a cover-up, because there's a lot of things that don't make sense, right? From the coroner's report to what was found, you know, and listen, we're not experts, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at the evidence that is presented, that is known, and the evidence that still will not be shown for some strange reason and go, well, yeah, I mean, the probability suggests that she was probably murdered. Now, the elevator surveillance footage shows her acting very strange. And this is the night that she disappeared, right? This is, not too long before she did. And she's acting very strange. She's walking into the elevator, out of the elevator, looking around as if she's looking for somebody or playing with somebody being cute or whatever, and she's acting very weird, and people have examined it and tried to add a supernatural spin to it and a demon spin. She's possessed. There's something. Guys, come on, Occam's razor, please, okay? She's not possessed, okay? She's not acting strange because something's taking over her body. I mean, that's not, I hate it when people do this. I fucking hate that shit. I hate watching these true, listen, it's fine if you're gonna do it with something that is known to be unexplained or very weird in terms of in that realm. But somebody acting strange in an elevator, to me, I don't see a girl who's possessed. I see somebody who is either off her meds or is talking to somebody. I don't know if you've seen this footage, but I highly recommend talking about or looking that up. But paranormal, 100% not. I'm telling you, there's nothing paranormal about this at all. The one thing that I find particularly interesting is also the police have tampered, and they have. And being somebody who works in post-production and who's worked with footage and editing, I'm giving you a professional opinion that when you watch the elevator footage, the time code is scrambled out. It's blurred out. The time code is blurred out. The time code would not have been scrambled or blurred out when the police picked up the footage to take it back to examine it. But upon its release to the general public, the time code, including the date and everything, is scrambled. Now, there have been a lot of people that have been able to decipher the time code through the scramble of what it probably is and the date and all that kind of stuff. But obviously, you have to physically go in and do that. It makes no logical sense of why the time code would be scrambled unless you are specifically trying to hide the time for when certain events took place. There's also an edit in there as well. When Elisa Lam eventually she exits the elevator and the elevator door stays open. And there's been people that have been like, that's so strange, it stays open, it's supernatural. Well, no, this has been proven actually that that particular elevator does stay open when you hit a certain button, which she hit. It stays open for like 2 minutes because it's a service elevator as well when you're moving in and out. So that's already been debunked, that the elevator is somehow possessed and it's not closing. No, it's been debunked. But when she leaves the elevator and she's never seen again, and the elevator door does eventually close, there's a jump cut and we're watching this empty elevator with the door open. And then all of a sudden, when the door is closing, it's in mid-close. So we actually don't see the elevator door come out of the wall. It suddenly is just here and it's closing. So there was an edit. I mean, there was an edit there. It doesn't take somebody who deals with this to know that, right? Certainly you could know that too, that there's an edit there. Well, why is there an edit there? Why is there an edit there? It would make no sense to just let it roll in real time. And if it takes 2 minutes for the elevator door to close, it takes 2 minutes for the elevator door to close. When you're presenting evidence to show that there's nothing to see here, which is what the police were trying to show, then you wouldn't edit anything. You wouldn't scramble a time code. It would make no sense unless the time code, and again, I'm just speculating here. I mean, I'm not part of the LAPD, although we do know the LAPD does have a history of, I'm just saying, a lot of police forces do, but unless the time code was scrambled to mask the edit, right? Because if you leave the time code visible, it would be very clear that the footage jumps a minute, 30 seconds, or whatever the case is, and we'd be able to see that. But the edit job was so bad that we can see that there's a jump cut there anyway. I don't even need to look at the time code. Well, why was that there? Could the police offer a reasonable explanation? Yeah, they might, but the police don't answer anything about it because it's a closed case, right? And she apparently died of suicide. She waltzed herself up there, got into the water tank by herself on her own and died. Took off all her clothes and got in there and swam around naked and died. That is the official explanation, essentially, right? Is that they came to the conclusion that she committed suicide, or that it was an accident, but nobody had anything to do with it in this hotel where everybody has something to do with something, in the history, right? That she just got up there one night out of maybe being off her meds and got delirious and took off all her clothes and jumped into the water tank on the roof at like 2:00 in the morning. Yeah, because that's what people do, right? Anyways, I find the case fascinating and strange. I don't believe the official report at all, based on what I've seen. And I'm no expert, of course, but I don't believe what they're telling me based on everything that they've told. I go, okay, well, I still have questions. And one of those, of course, is the elevator. Another reason why to make the cut in the CCTV footage in the elevator is, did somebody walk by at that moment, right? Did they need to cut it because somebody walked by? Now, maybe it was somebody completely innocuous, right? Maybe it was somebody that had nothing to do with the murder, right? But they didn't want to, maybe it was somebody they didn't want to show because they didn't want people to raise questions about the janitor or the maintenance guy or the security guy or whatever, who really didn't have anything to do with it, but he just happened to walk by at that moment. That's entirely possible, but there's clearly an edit. You can watch the footage. There's clearly, and is she acting strange? Sure she is. But people, project their own ideas. You add creepy music under it and you add a voice. What is she doing? Look at her hands right here. It's very strange. Of course, yeah, I get it. You instill the theatrics of it. You can make anybody think that she's possessed by the same fucking demon that possessed Reagan in The Exorcist. Come on, right? But when you look at it at face value, there's really not a lot to see there, other than that she is either speaking to somebody or speaking to herself. She's nervous. Maybe she's, a bit of anxiety, but nothing that would lead me to believe that she's going to go from that to literally jumping into the water tank on top of the roof without her clothes on and killing herself. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, scrambling the time code. The most peculiar thing to me actually is the scramble the time code. And of course the edit in the door. Now, maybe the police have a reasonable explanation, right? Oh, well, we did that because, well, no, actually, when we got it, we did, because, well, we put that cut in there because, and then we'll go, oh, okay. Now, maybe they're lying, but if it sounds legit and if it seems plausible, we'd go, oh, okay. But the police don't answer any questions about it anymore. There's never been as far as I know, there's never been a reason of why the time code and date at the bottom would be scrambled. I don't understand why you would do that. Why would you do that? Everybody out there now, why would you do that? Why would you do it? If you why would you, anybody right now in the chat room, why would you scramble a time code? What would be the purpose of you doing that? You would be trying to hide something, right? You would be trying to hide something. That's what you would be doing, right? Because why else would you be doing it? Why else would you be doing it? You'd be trying to, now that doesn't mean there's anything nefarious going on. That doesn't mean that there's anything bad going on, right? Or that the police are in on some sort of murder and plot. Not at all. Not at all. It doesn't mean that. We can't make that leap it doesn't mean that. But it does mean that you are trying to hide something. It doesn't mean the police killed her. It doesn't mean the police know who killed her. It doesn't mean there's a cover-up of any nefarious reasons. But it does mean that you are trying to hide something. Because why would you scramble a time code? You're trying to scramble the time code so the people looking at it can't tell what the time is. For a specific reason. That's the only reason to do it. It makes no sense otherwise, right? And of course, the jump cut. She leaves the elevator. We're looking at the elevator for, 20 seconds, whatever. The door's not closing. And all of a sudden, it's closing, but it's in mid-close. And it's like, well, why wouldn't you just... Listen, when you're presenting evidence, you don't tamper with it. You don't edit it. You don't cut it, right? if it took 45 minutes for that elevator door to close, that 45 minutes should be on fucking YouTube of us just looking at an open elevator door. Because you don't want to, well, we'll just speed up the time. No, just let the 45 minutes go by and we'll just watch this thing for 45 minutes. That's evidence, right? Because it's in real time. But when you make the edit and cut and all of a sudden the door's closing, that's strange. Doesn't mean that the police were in on it. Doesn't mean that she was murdered. No, it doesn't. But it does mean that you cut it for some reason. Why did you cut it? Why would you do that? Did somebody walk by that you needed to get out of there? I don't know, Anyways, it's a fascinating case. I saw somebody here said something about the lid. I believe the lid was closed, if I'm not mistaken. And that's another thing, too. The lid was actually closed. I stand to be corrected on that, but I think the lid was closed. And the maintenance guy guys, do deep cuts on Maura Murray and Elisa Lam. I'm telling you right now, you'll be hooked, and try not to. It's okay if you watch one or two where you watch somebody who's doing the paranormal angle and they have the music and here is Elisa Lam in the elevator. Like, I get it. Okay, knock yourselves out. But in actuality, she was not possessed by a demon. Okay, there's a reasonable explanation for what happened, but it's a mystery. It's mysterious. It's like Maura Murray, right? Do your due diligence and look into those two. Those are two of my favorite true crime stories. Is the disappearance of Maura Murray, which, as I said, to this day, nobody has seen fuck all. Her remains have never been found. Her nothing has ever been found. Nothing. She just literally vanished off the face of the earth, as a lot of people tend to do. And Elisa Lam, of course, she was found, but the circumstance that led to her death are peculiar and strange. And you got to check it out. You got to check it out. If you're watching after the fact, comment below and let me know if you have seen them and what your thoughts are on them, or what are some of your favorite, most interesting, peculiar, weird, creepy, eerie, true crime stories that you've watched. Comment below and let me know in the comment section, because I would really like to know what they are. It's fascinating stuff. Let's move over to the chat. And again, there's a lot of shit I didn't dive into here because, as you can see, I've been talking for nearly 40 minutes now. And I mean, I've just scratched the surface of Maura Murray and Elisa Lam. Oh, one other thing I want to say too, and this is really weird. That I think, okay, I'm a little off on the dates, but I think either like the week before she died or a couple of weeks after Elisa Lam died or was found or something, there was a tuberculosis outbreak on Skid Row in downtown LA. And the drug or the medication they used to treat it is known as a Lam Elise or something, or it's like her name, but backwards. It's fucking weird. I get goosebumps when I think about it. It's something strange. It's like Elisa Lam or a Lam Elise or something is like the name of the drug or something. I'm not fucking making this up. Like, you can look, this is verifiable. This is 100% fact. It was weird, man. Coincidence? Probably, but weird nonetheless. Yeah, Aaron Click says the Night Stalker. That's right. Case is it is, and he stayed at the Cecil. He lived at the Cecil back in the 80s. That's what I'm talking about. This happened at the Cecil Hotel. It was really, really strange. Yeah. A Lam Elise. Her name is Elisa Lam, and I think the medication was like a Lam Elise or something like that. It's something, it's her name. It's fucking weird, man. Look it up. There's deep cuts you guys can go into, and you're like, it's very strange indeed. So anyway, let's see what you guys are saying. Let's want to make sure I didn't miss any super chats. I don't think I did. Just two came in here. Maka525, thanks, buddy. Says, Dave, love the hoodie. Where'd you get it, bud? Oh, I got this at... Where did I get this? I don't know where I got it. I got it like when the first season of The Mandalorian was on. Just at some store. Might have been, was it Spencer's maybe? Or it was somewhere like that. MMA Parlay sends in a super chat. Thanks, buddy. Says, I'm late, but Forensic Files is the GOAT. Yeah, Forensic Files is pretty cool too. No doubt about it. Yeah, there's a lot of incredibly captivating and intoxicating true crime stories out there. And like I said, the two that have done it for me the most are the disappearance of Maura Murray and Elisa Lam. You've got to look into those two. You'll thank me for it, or you'll be totally angry with me because you'll be so hooked. You'll be so hooked. Oh, Frank Riker, Frank the man. Clinical trials, here you go, Dave. Yes, yes, there it is. Okay, so this is so crazy. This is so crazy. So isn't this okay? I gotta move this over here. 1 second. I gotta bring this up. I gotta show you guys. This is fucking crazy. And it's weird. So a girl dies at the Cecil Hotel by apparent suicide or accident. Her name is Elisa Lam. Within like a week or two of that death, there's an outbreak. Look what Frank dragged in here. Look what the dog dragged in. Thank you, Frank. Look at this. Now I can't begin to pretend to pronounce this, but Lam Elisa, right? This is a diagnostics of childhood tuberculosis. But there's another, yeah, that sounds like it's talking about the actual strain. There's a drug too, unless this is talking about the drug. But there's something that they've... Anyway, I'll have to look into it again. But come on. Like, imagine I die. Okay, I die. I'm found dead in a water tower. And like 2 weeks later, something breaks out in the area of where I'm killed, by the way. In the area of where I'm killed. And they rush in with a medication called MCRAE Dave. It's okay. Everybody calm down. Everybody calm down. We got this. We're gonna give you all MCRAE Dave here. It's good. It's good. What? What? This is one of the fucking... Yeah, Danita Brown, the Black Dahlia as well. Oh, that's good. And there are rumors that she even stayed at the Cecil Hotel as well way back in the day. There's some really creepy stuff, man. Really creepy stuff that when you do some deep cuts and you look into it, and I tend to watch this stuff at like fucking midnight. I don't know why. It's creepier and I love it. And I can go to bed fine. But that's really cool. Yeah, that's fucking weird, man. I'm telling you, there's some weird stuff. Thank you, Frank, by the way, for that. I really appreciate it. Robert Thidoff says, Dave, is there any suicide from a Hollywood entertainer you think was actually murder? Ooh, I think what did they say was an accident? Natalie Wood. I think Natalie Wood, I don't buy the whole Natalie Wood thing. I think there's a lot more going on there than meets the eye with Natalie Wood. Somebody more modern though, like, I don't know. I don't think so. I'd have to look into it. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of anybody, but I don't know. But it's fascinating shit, man. I'm telling you. Jason Badass says, Dave, from England, we had the Moors murders with Ian Brady and Maura Hindley, as well as the Yorkshire, Ripper with Peter Sutcliffe. Peter Sutcliffe. Fascinating. Very cool. I'd love to look into that shit. Of course, here in Canada, our most famous murderer, certainly of the last few decades, is probably Paul Bernardo. He was the one that, with his then girlfriend, who is out, by the way, or wife, I guess, or whatever, or fiance, who is out because she only... If you don't know the story of Paul Bernardo, look it up. It's sick. It's sick what they did to... Yeah, like he was a rapist and a murderer who got his wife in on it, and they raped and murdered his wife's sister. Yeah, it gets crazy. He's in prison for the rest of his life. She was in prison for like 10 years and then like got out, and she's under like a different name now. She has kids, she's married, and it's like, what the fuck, man? She should have been in prison for the rest of her life as well. It's fucking dumb. And then, of course, there's Russell Williams here in Canada as well. That's a famous case from about 10 years or so ago. He was an Air Force, like really high in the ranks of the Air Force. and he was a rapist and a murderer. And you all you have to do is look up Russell Williams, and it'll come up. I even think Dateline did a fucking thing on it. Like, that's how crazy it was. Obviously because of the stature, right? He flew like the Prime Minister, he flew the Queen of England, and he was like high up in the Air Force. He was like whatever the top ranking person would be in the Air Force. The name and the titles might differ slightly between the U.S. Air Force and, of course, Canada. But whatever that is, he was that. And he turned out to be a rapist and a murderer, and he was caught. And that's a big case here in Canada. That was about 10 years or so ago. Canada's got them too. Not as much as the US, of course, but that's also because of you guys have, like 20 times the population. We have about 40 million people. You guys have like 320, right? So, but certainly, and of course the climate is a bit different too, but man, yeah, Elisa Lam and Maura Murray, fucking crazy. Chris Baber sends in a super chat and says, the Wayne Williams child deaths scared me as a kid. Wayne Williams. I've never heard of the Wayne Williams child. I'm going to have to look this up, buddy. Thanks for that. The Conspiracy Trifecta sends in a $4.99 super chat and says, the CDC has announced that there is an outbreak of tuberculosis in Los Angeles. The test used to detect TB in humans is called Lam Elisa. That's what I'm talking about. Isn't that fucking crazy? Isn't that crazy? I mean, come on. Come on. That is crazy. That is crazy shit. A girl named Elisa Lam dies under really fucked up and weird circumstances, right? She's found in the water tower, naked, her clothes in there with her. No sign of trauma or anything, all right? It took months for the toxicology report to come out and for the coroner to actually, and it took 5 or 6 months for the coroner to actually rule it accident or suicide. And it's strange, right? Really fucked up, really weird. The elevator thing, everything. It's strange. It's weird, right? You watch it, be like, this is weird. Even when you don't think of it as a supernatural thing, it's weird. It's fucking weird. And then like a week or two later, there's a tuberculosis outbreak at Skid Row in LA, down the street from this hotel. And the test they use to detect it is the name of the girl that died in the water tower. Are you kidding me? Come on. I mean, imagine that. Imagine that. I die. Dave McCrae. There's an outbreak of tuberculosis and the test. I'm telling you, man, if you believe in I'm more likely to believe in the secret societies and cults and all that kind of stuff. That's more tangible to me. That's more real to me. Sacrifices and things like that. And to say that, no, that's not possible. Listen, that's happened throughout millennia. It's happened throughout millennia. It happens today, not in the same ways. We're not sacrificing humans at the stake in the middle of the street. Of course, depending on where you live in the world, they still do it. But I'm just saying that those things to turn a blind eye and just say, no, those things don't exist in the US or Canada. Yes, they do. They're not out in front like maybe they used to be hundreds and thousands of years ago, but oh yes, they do. They still exist. To what degree they affect certain things is, up for debate, of course. We don't want to get too conspiratorial, but certainly I'm more likely to believe that something was going on there and she got into some crazy shit. Maybe she met somebody in in Los Angeles, somebody she was talking to, and weird shit went on. And the thing that pisses me off the most is that apparently the CCTV cameras at the Cecil Hotel are all bogus. They're all just fake, except for the one in that one elevator. And I'm like, really? Even the ones at the front desk? Like, you have no CCTV footage of the front desk when she checked in or in the lobby? Come on, all hotels. I don't care if you're the Cecil, if you're fucking the Motel 6. All hotels have some sort of camera at the desk. Like, what if you're robbed? I mean, come on, seriously? You know, I can understand that maybe there's, dummy cameras in the hallway, maybe, right? In each floor, maybe they're dummy cameras, okay. But at the front desk? Really? Really? We've never seen anything with her coming in, going, nothing. We hear stories from people who were there, but no footage. It's like, really? And there's even a story about somebody said they saw her with two guys. One gave her like a box or something. And it's like, well, who are these guys? Like, why can't we see the foot? It's fucking weird, man. And then like 2 weeks later, tuberculosis breaks out and they have to test everybody with Lam Elisa. Oh my God. It's strange, man. It's strange. You'll thank me when you start diving into it and start doing some deep cuts on either of those, Elisa Lam or Maura Marie. You're going to be hooked. I'll never see you again. I'll never see you again. You'll be just so hooked. It's crazy. Thank you for that conspiracy trifecta. Really appreciate that. A couple more super chats came in here. MMA Parlay sends in a $10 super chat. Thanks, buddy. Says the cases where there's an obvious large life insurance policy taken out on the victim shortly before the death baffles me. Do people not think that's suspicious? 100%. 100%. You know, it's true. It's true. You know, you take out like a $3 million insurance policy, and then 3 weeks later or 2 weeks later, all of a sudden the person dies. And like, I guess I gotta cash in. And they don't even wait. Like, there's no buffer zone. It's like the wife is dead or the husband is dead, and like the next day they're calling the bank. Hey, so when can I get this money? It's like, like maybe you should, I don't know, wait a bit till the funeral's done, play the part of the grieving spouse. I'm not condoning this, by the way. I'm just saying, right? If you're gonna do it, you gotta do it. I'm saying that maybe you should, if you're gonna play the game, at least try to play it to its full potential. Sounds so bad. Sounds like I'm condoning it. I'm not. It baffles me too. It's just like, why would you, like, there's nothing more suspicious than, oh my God, she's dead. Oh God, she's dead. Oh, who are you calling? Oh, just calling the bank. Hi, yes. Can I get that insurance? I mean, like, are you kidding me? And there's even, like, we've all seen it. There's even episodes where they like a few hours will go by or something, and they're on the phone to the bank. And it's like, what the fuck? It's insane. It's insane. David Lee Barron sends in a $4.99 super chat. Thanks, David. Says, Mr. Piche, it's been a microsecond, my friend. It has. What are your thoughts on the hotel footage of the Men in Black and the witnesses' testimonies? Oh, I know what you're talking about. Now, that's some pretty cool stuff. That isn't necessarily true crime. That's more of the UFO side of things, but still really fascinating. This happened actually in a hotel in Niagara Falls, Canada. It's a very famous footage of apparently these two guys. I think it was something like the hotel manager had and correct me if I'm wrong, David, but isn't it that the hotel manager think they saw a UFO or something, and then like a few weeks later, these two guys dressed identical to each other, who apparently, according to witnesses at the hotel, didn't blink at all, looked identical like twins, came in dressed in stereotypical like black suits with the black, tie and the trench coats and the black hats. They came in looking for this manager who just happened not to be there. And then of course they left, and they did look strange. There is CCTV footage of that. And as far as I know, it hasn't been debunked as being fake. I think it's real. Looks real. I'm not saying that it wasn't fabricated, but I mean, in terms of the set and where they were and all that kind of stuff, the setting, it looks real. And yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, it's definitely a creepy story. The hotel manager sounds legit, 100% legit. I believe his story in the sense that he sounds credible. He sounds believable. Could he be making it up? He could be. Could that have been two of his, buddies that came in? Yeah, it could have been. That stuff happens too. But certainly it sounds credible, and it's eerie to watch. It's eerie to watch because you think, could this be? You know what I mean? Like, it's fucking strange. It's very strange. So yes, I do know what you're talking about. Hans Gruber. Oh, no, please, no. You're one of them, aren't you? Hans Gruber sends in a $5 super chat and says, check out the Camp Scott Girl Scout murders. Chilling and unsolved. Ooh. I'm going to do it. I'm totally going to do it. Blue Raven Film says, hey, Dave, have you heard of the Cabin 28 murders? No, I love this. I love that you guys are into this. This is great. This is awesome stuff. This is so good. This is awesome stuff. Awesome to see this. I didn't know what today's show would be like because obviously, you know, I just thought since I talked about Halloween yesterday, I'd talk about true crime today. I've been wanting to do this. And naturally, I mean, I could do an episode where I do some deep cuts and I dive into specifically on just one thing. But as you can see, just talking a little bit about Maura Murray and Elisa Lam, I mean, and I didn't even scratch the surface on anything. I'm just kind of just talking about it on a very surface level, but it's fucking crazy, man. It's crazy. So no, I have not heard about that. Let me go over here. I want to make sure I'm not missing any. Chris Baber sends another $4.99 super chat. Thanks, Chris. Says he was the Atlanta child killer from 79 to 81. Also, the Chris Watts story is all over YouTube. Oh, I've seen the Chris Watts story. That's fucking insane. Have you guys seen the Chris Watts thing? Oh. And again, there's another example of a guy who had, as far as I know, no inkling of ever doing something like this. He murdered his wife and his 2 children. And he dumped them. He dumped his wife in a shallow grave where he worked. And he dumped his 2 kids into the oil tanks or whatever where he worked. Like, are you kidding me, man? Those are your kids, man. Like, fuck. And not that it's your wife too, you know, obviously, but I'm like, he's a coward. He's a scuzz-sucking piece of shit. Leave, get a divorce, or just leave. If you can't afford it, just leave. Just separate. Just say, honey, I'm out. I can't do this. Just leave. You know, just leave. Go to a hotel. Go to a friend's place. If you're fucking somebody else, if you're dating, you know, if you're cheating, just leave. Just fucking leave. Go. Just go. Don't murder them. Like, what are you doing? You're a coward, man. You're a scuzz-sucking piece of shit coward with a small penis. You are. You are a scuzz-sucking piece of shit coward. You're a little bitch with a small penis. That's what you are. Because it sounds so, but real men would never do that. They would never do that. They would never do that. You know, Scott Peterson. There's another thing from like 20 years ago now. Was it 02 or something? Scott Peterson. Drew Peterson. No relation, by the way. But there's that one too that was fucking weird. A former cop that no doubt murdered like probably most of his wives. Like he had like 4 wives and 3 of them went missing. You know, it's like fucking insane. It's insane. Crazy stuff. David Lee Barron follows up with another super chat and says, Dear Mr. Pichet, do you believe in black ops in the world governments? Was 9/11 inside job and Kennedy's death? I don't know. Well, yes, I do believe that there are black ops in most all governments, not just the U.S. And I believe that there is enough evidence to point to strange and unusual things that go on. 100%. And so do I believe that 9/11 was an inside job? I believe that Kennedy's death, no, I don't believe that. I can say 100%. I do not believe Oswald pulled the trigger. And if he did, he wasn't the only one. That's one of the, no. The official story on that is laughable. 9/11, I think there are some unusual things, questions that I think don't have answers. Yeah, I mean, do I think George Bush orchestrated the whole thing? No, because I don't think he would have had anything to do with it necessarily. But I do think there are some unusual things. And I'm not talking about conspiratorial stuff. I'm talking about legitimate, unusual things that actually that there is evidence for. You know, like thermite being found in the rubble of the World Trade Center. There would be no reason for thermite to be there. You don't build buildings with thermite. You know, there's and this has been proven. It's not a fact. This actually has been proven. It is out there. There is thermite that was there. It's very unusual. And why is that unusual? Well, because, you know, in demolition, you do have thermite, you know, and so there's unusual things. I'm not saying that I believe everything is a hoax or a fabrication. I think the truth lies somewhere in the middle. But I do think there are some unusual things that do happen. There are some, we are lied to all the time by our, well, we are. I mean, we are lied to far more often than we are told the truth by our governments. We are. And that is because of national security. And sometimes they're little white lies and they don't mean anything, right? And then sometimes they could be big lies, you know? So I think it's important that we understand that governments do lie, and they lie for various reasons. Some good, some not so good. So yeah, there are some unusual, not just with those two things you mentioned, but other things too, even here in Canada too. You know, there's unusual things that you go, I don't know, you know, and I think the thing that disappoints me the most, and I've often said this, is that we live in a world now that the ability to question government with legitimate questions, you know, not coming at it from a rah, you know, tinfoil hat type of way, but coming at it from a legitimate, you are shunned and shamed. And, you know, how dare you question your government? How dare you? And that disappoints me a lot. That I think is the most disappointing thing out of all of it for me, because there are some unusual things that do happen. And it doesn't mean that there's anything nefarious going on. It just means that this is strange, you know, and that doesn't make any sense. And the official narrative often doesn't make sense. You know, it's like, well, okay, but that doesn't make sense. Shut up! No, but shut your mouth! Well, no, I just shut your mouth! And that mentality that we have now, whether it's something innocuous all the way up to something as sensitive as 9/11, is what I think disappoints me the most, you know, because there's a lot of things where I'm like, well, yeah, I guess I could see that, but that doesn't, what about this or what about that? You know, it would be like asking, you know, the LAPD, well, I noticed that you scrambled the time code here. Shut your mouth. It's, well, I just want to know why. And maybe it's something completely innocuous. Like, oh, well, that's just how we got the CCTV footage. It was like that. When we retrieved the footage, it was like that. Now, of course, maybe it was. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess, okay. You know, but I think that's what disappoints me the most, is the taking away of asking questions. Now, I'm not saying we live in a totalitarian, situation here. I'm just saying that you do see that more and more, especially when it's something sensitive like 9/11. People usually don't get sensitive over JFK, but people usually get very sensitive over 9/11 because of the amount of people that died. And if you question it, people take that as you're being disrespectful to those who died in the official story. And I see it as the complete opposite. I think, no, I think it's awful what happened that day. It's horrible. But there are certain things that are said that I'm like, okay, but what about this? Or, you know, what about that? And they're legitimate questions, not conspiratorial, fabricating, pulling out of my ass thing because I want there to be a conspiracy. There's legitimate questions that don't make sense or that don't add up about a lot of things. So it's just unfortunate that we live in a world now where being able to ask that kind of thing seems to be kind of, you know, shunned and shamed. How dare you? And it's like, oh, come on, fuck off with that shit. You know, we're all adults here, but whatever. Well, we're clearly not. So it's interesting. It's interesting though. I do have, but to answer your question, I do not believe Kennedy's death as how it's sold to us. No, not at all. And 9/11, I have questions because there's just interesting things that don't add up for me, but yeah. Jeff Harris says, sends in a $9.99 super chat and says, hey, Dave, have you ever heard of the Chris Benoit tragedy? Well, I know Chris Benoit was the wrestler, right? He was one of my favorite wrestlers, but the day he killed his family and himself, I lost respect. Curious if you ever heard about the story. I heard about it. I don't know the details on it. I definitely have heard about it. I know who Chris Benoit was. I think he was Chris Benoit Canadian? For some reason, I have this feeling he was Canadian, but maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was American. I don't think he's Canadian. Anyway, he's probably American. But no, I haven't heard about that. I mean, I've heard about it, but I haven't gone into any deep cuts on it or anything. It's my new word of the day, deep cuts. David Lee Barron sends in a $9.99 super chat and says, I don't know the legitimacy of this, but it has been claimed an abundant of times that the World Trade Center leader Larry Silverstein bought terrorism insurance for the two towers months before 9/11. I don't know if it was terrorism insurance, but he did take out a multi-billion-dollar insurance policy. That is true. Yeah, several months before. Yeah, that's one of the things that is very strange about Larry Silverstein too. And we could get into a deep cut on 9/11, but I know it's a sensitive topic for some, and I certainly don't want to do that just out of the blue. I would rather do it from the beginning, so people know they know from the beginning that this could be a sensitive topic. But I will say that there's some unusual things. That doesn't mean that Larry Silverstein was doing anything nefarious at all. But there are some unusual things in regards to him. That's not the only one. Cordell sends in a $4.99 super chat and says, thoughts on Tenet? I haven't seen it yet. Chris Baber sends in a $3.99 super chat and says, Gary Ridgway, 49 murders, the Green River Killer. Yeah, the Green River Killer. Zodiac. Oh my God, there's one right there. What was that one? Who is that killer? Tom Hungarian says Benoit was Canadian. Okay, I thought he was. He was from Alberta. Yeah, they tend to have a lot of good wrestling guys out there. You got the Hart family out there, Benoit. BTK? Is that it? BTK killer? I think there was the BTK killer too, I think. Jason Badass says Sharon Tate was a famous murder. Oh, well, I mean, Sharon Tate was part of the Manson murders. I actually drove, my girlfriend and I, the last time we were in LA, we drove to where the house used to be. Now, the house where Sharon Tate was murdered is no longer there. Now, there is a house there, but it's a gigantic, beautiful mansion in the Hollywood Hills that looks over Hollywood and Los Angeles. And when my girlfriend and I were in LA, in November of 2019, we went for a vacation and for the Voice Arts Awards. We had driven up there to see it, and we drove, it's not really private. I mean, well, it's private in the sense of that there would be no reason for you to drive up there on this road. Cielo Avenue, something like that. It's in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Not the house, but the street. We drove up there. It's a private street in the sense of there's no exit. So there would be no reason for you to go up there unless you lived up there or you were visiting somebody up there, right? So we drove up there, and immediately there were people out taking out their garbage or something, and they knew, it's like they knew we weren't supposed to be there. And I was driving a nice car. I'd rented a Ford convertible Mustang for the trip. And so we looked like we kind of belonged there, because we had this nice car in this nice area. But for whatever reason, they obviously know everybody who lives on this street, and they saw this car coming up, and you could see them. They kind of took out their garbage, and they stood there waiting to kind of see what we were going to do. And we weren't going to go up and knock on any doors or anything. We just wanted to kind of go up to the gates of where the Tate house used to be. And like I said, they tore it down and built a new, well, they did build a new one. It's not the same. It's not the same house. They may have added on to it maybe, but it's certainly not the same house. And I knew as soon as they were kind of stopped that they're like, yeah, they're not going to let us by. You can kind of see they were kind of like, who you going to fuck on? So I just did a 3-point turn and backed. But we did it. We got up there. We're like, oh, that's where and we could see the gates behind them, right? And my girlfriend was satisfied, and I was satisfied too. So then we just did a 3-point turn, turned around and left. But it was funny. Not funny, but in a sense of funny how they're very protective up there. And I understand. And listen, we may have been the 30th person that day. I mean, if you are interested in that kind of thing, it's not hard to find. It's not hard to find the street and do some GPS and get there. It's not hard at all. In 2018, the year prior, when my girlfriend and I were in Los Angeles, we were in Los Angeles for two reasons. We were there for, well, three reasons. We were there for a vacation again. We turned it into a vacation. I was there for the 40th anniversary Halloween convention in Pasadena, and I was also there for the Voice Arts Awards again over at Warner Brothers. And that time in 2018, we actually went to where the, I'm sure I've told you this, but we actually went to where Spawn Ranch was, which is where Manson lived with his followers. We actually went there. Now it's no longer there. Like the structure's no longer there. It's vegetation. It's grown over. It's, you wouldn't know it was there unless you knew what you were doing. So we pulled over, we parked, we had to watch for like snakes and shit. This is fucking California in the desert. And, but we went down this trail, we followed this trail, over these leaves, and we found it. We found where it used to be, and we found the rock, the famous rock from Life magazine where his Manson followed. There's a black and white picture of the Manson family underneath like this rock cave kind of thing. I have photos of me there. And it wasn't like we were having a good time. Oh, this is so, fun. It was just kind of, it was strange, to be there and to see that this really does exist. This really did happen. It was very peaceful. Some people have asked me, did you feel anything? It was actually very peaceful. The sun was shining. It was a very peaceful sort of thing. We found the rock that Manson used to sit on and play guitar and shit. And it's crazy shit. Like, it was crazy, but we wanted to do it because, it's part of history, whether it's good or bad, it is part of history. And it was sort of in some weird way kind of paying respect, not to Manson, but just to the story and to the lives that were lost, which is why we tried to go up to Tate's house, and to Tate, it's not her house, obviously, but, up there as well and whatnot. And it was weird to think we were standing in the same spot that Charles Manson stood. And Charles Manson was a small little guy. I mean, I'm not a tall guy. I'm 5'8", but Manson was like 5'2" or something. He was very, very small. But anyway, yeah, you mentioned that, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot I had done a bit of that. It's crazy, man. It's fucking crazy. Let's see here. I don't think I missed any more super chats, did I? I don't think so. I think I'm all caught up here in super chats. We'll go another 10 minutes. We'll take this thing to 1:30 today. Chastity Smith says, I believe something odd is happening with the world right now. Look at the U.S. Capitol being taken over. I think we will see World War III soon and a world badly divided. I don't know if you'll see World War III, but definitely, there's unusual things happening in the United States right now. And it's not just what's happening in the political, it's how everything is changing, how it's the PC culture, it's the cancel culture, it's the divide, it's the, defund this, cancel this, move this, shake that, instill this. And it's but at the same time, this isn't anything that hasn't happened in history before. It hasn't happened in our lifetime, but this kind of thing has been happening for millennia. It's just, maybe it's new to us, but this is not listen, the Canadians, we burned down the White House way back in the day. The White House in Washington is not the first White House that you guys have had. I believe it was the War of 1812, I think it was, or something like that, where Canada, well, it wasn't Canada. It would have been the British, obviously, but coming from, we weren't a country then, essentially. But it was Canada for all intents and purposes. There was, Canada and the U.S. had a war amongst themselves. The only reason why we're a country today on our own is because we were able to push the U.S. back. The U.S. wanted Canada, so it's like, fuck you, just back on, just fuck you got enough, damn it. So, and there's lots, you look at World War I, World War II, right? These things, I don't know if this is going to lead to a world war. This seems more like a civil war, if anything. I think I think I would predict a civil war in the U.S. before a world war. But it's crazy. It's definitely crazy. Definitely crazy, Chastity. Absolutely, 100%. David Lee Barron sends another super chat and says, do you believe in alien abductions? I know it sounds like such a stupid question, and I know there's a lot of BS to this, but what do you think? Well, again, I think the truth lies somewhere in the middle. I do believe in aliens. And when I say I believe in aliens, what I am saying is I believe that life exists beyond our planet. I think it is naive and small-minded to think that out of the trillions of stars and the billions of planets and the millions of galaxies or whatever the case is, maybe even billions, that we are the only ones in the universe. I mean, and I'm not talking about microbes and things you got to look through a fucking. No, I'm talking about intelligent life. I don't know what they look. I mean, I don't know if they look like what Hollywood and science fiction has depicted them to look like the Greys. And, I know that's very much in the pop culture consciousness. So when we think alien, that's the first thing you think of, right? I don't know if that's the case. If you believe in evolution, of course, which I do, then you would, do they look human? Well, that would mean that the evolutionary process would have to be identical on another planet for them to be humans. I mean, that's like, what are the odds of that, right? Or is it more like the film Arrival, right? Where they are intelligent, but it's more plant-like, or whatever the case. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. And I'm not saying that they don't look like the gray aliens. Maybe they do. Maybe that's real. But I do believe that intelligent life exists beyond our planet. I do believe that there is a high probability that they may have visited us. Absolutely. I think there's, at the very minimum, enough circumstantial evidence. At the very minimum now, there's enough circumstantial evidence to suggest that there is something going on. You know what I mean? So, and that's being generous, saying circumstantial, when of course you look at a lot of the stuff that's come out recently. So, yeah, but I also believe too that there are a lot of secret black ops, things that are going on in the government and in the governments around the world that could lead one to believe that what they are seeing is alien when it's not. I mean, the stealth bomber years and years ago was often pegged as being, oh my God, because nobody had ever seen anything like it. This triangle sort of shape, not triangle, but this different kind of shape. What is this? It's not detected by radar and all that. And then of course, you find out that no, it was a secret plane that the U.S. military is working on. Those things happen, no doubt about it. No doubt about it, 100%. And it would be naive to think that every strange light you see in the sky or every strange thing somebody says is a UFO is definitely an alien from another world. No, probably not. They're probably more often than not, it isn't. But every now and then, there's something a little strange going on. And so yes, I do. I believe in aliens in that sense. And in the abduction side, do I believe in abduction? I don't know. Again, I think there's enough circumstantial evidence at the very minimum to suggest that there could be something to it. But I also think that it's like psychics, right? I do believe that a psychic, a medium, that there could be people out there that have some sort of ability, intuition, something, perhaps. But do I also believe that there are a shitload of charlatans out there that just don't give a fuck and are really good at cold reading? 100% yes. Oh my God, yes. Absolutely. So I believe it's kind of like with the abductions. Are there some genuine, honest people out there that are like, listen, I don't know what the fuck's going on, but this happened to me. This is really fucking weird and strange. Yeah, 100%. But do I also believe that there are people out there that are just fucking getting in on the game because they think it's cool and they want their 15 minutes of fame? Yeah. And you would be completely naive to think that that doesn't happen. So that's kind of where I sit. Hopefully that made sense. A couple more minutes here. Let me see here. Evil Alex says, we had a murder spree here in the 90s and again as the killer escaped in the early 2000s in Germany in a little town where I live near Berlin. Now the guy is a trans woman and normally walks around here. Wait. You had a murder spree here in the 90s and again as the killer escaped in the early 2000s in Germany in a little town and now he's why, like, is this a fact? Why isn't he caught or she caught? And put into prison if they know Again, I don't know what I don't know the laws or what's going on there, but that's really strange. That's fascinating. Frank Riker says aliens abduct humans and dump us pretty fucking quick. Yeah, I would think that would be it. Hey, let's get. Oh God, what the hell is this shit? Oh fuck, it's like, you know. Listen, the aliens are probably like a nice steak, you know, a nice gourmet steak or something like that, and we're like, you know, the really disgusting greasy burger that you get at some real like disgusting joint somewhere. I don't know. I have no idea. David Lee Barron says, do you believe in lucid dreaming? Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, that's yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I've done it many times where you become self-aware that you know you're dreaming. Oh yeah. It's cool, isn't it? It's cool. Hans Gruber says DB Cooper is the Zodiac. Oh, that's some bold claims there. The case of DB Cooper, though, is interesting. The case of DB Cooper is also, and that Zodiac, Tony and I are going to be talking Zodiac on a future Two Dudes soon, because I think we're going to watch the movie soon. The David Fincher one from 2007 or 8, which is totally underrated. If you have not watched the Fincher movie Zodiac with Jake Gyllenhaal and Mark Ruffalo, you've got to watch it. It's really good. It's really, really, really good. So good. So good. Holly Klein. Great to see Holly Klein here. I haven't seen Holly Klein in a while. Maybe you've been in here, but I haven't seen you in a while. I know someone who was on America's Most Wanted. Oh, you know what? I'm kind of sad that America's Most Wanted is no longer around. Of course, you do have a lot of these true crime shows now, and maybe America's Most Wanted isn't really necessary anymore. But they did a lot of good, man. They did a lot of good. And America's Most Wanted, yeah, with Walsh. What's his name? John Walsh? No, what the fuck's his name? Why am I blanking on his name? Chris Baber, great topic today, my man. Thank you again for the super chat, Chris, and thank you. Yeah, I thought it was fun talking true crime, we've deviated from that a little bit into some other little topics here, but it's fun. It's fun. I don't mind it because it organically grows and molds into that kind of thing, which is pretty darn cool. So as long as things kind of organically grow into that area, I'm okay with it. So this has been a fun topic for today. Folks, that is going to do it for me here on episode 131 of MCRAE Live, talking true crime. Hey, like I said, look into the disappearance of Maura Murray. If you want something that's going to captivate you and that's going to just hook you and you're going to just spy, Maura Murray, the disappearance of Maura Murray, or Maura Murray, depending on how you want to pronounce her first name. Fucking, I'm telling you, it is like, what the fuck? It's crazy. Also, Elisa Lam. Look into that. Now, she was found. She's not missing. She was found, but it's the circumstances surrounding her disappearance and her discovery that are just fucking weird. Look into that as well. And try not to watch so much of the supernatural stuff with the people with the creepy music and the voices. And as you can see, the elevator, what is she doing here? Like, it's just, come on, they're fun, but at the end of the day, we also have to look into practical, realistic, rational explanations, which is the higher probability. So make sure you do that too. You'll thank me for it if you're really into this kind of stuff. Those are two that are really fascinating to me. And I will definitely look into some of the ones that you have said here too, that I have not seen before. I'm looking forward into checking it out. Somebody said here, how did Elisa Lam climb out of the water tower or climb into the water tower? Well, check it out. She didn't climb out, but how did she climb in? Well, you gotta, that's part of the, like, what was she doing up at the roof at that hour? Why would she go in there to take a swim? Like, I don't understand. This is it's dark, it's creepy, it's eerie, it's cold. What's going on? You gotta check it out, man. You gotta check it out. Frank Riker, where are you, Frank? Frank sends in a super chat for the sexy normal MFers in the chat. That's right. And don't forget to check out the Slaughtered Lamb, Frank Riker and Darren Sands, the Slaughtered Lamb podcast. Podcasts, where all podcasts are downloaded. They have a podcast where they're talking movies and the movies that not a lot of us talk about. So make sure you check that out. I was a guest on their Die Hard episode, if you want to check that out as well. That is going to do it for me. Thank you to Frank Riker, Tabitha Short, and Darren Sands, of course, my awesome moderators who keep this chat flowing. I couldn't do this without you guys. You guys are amazing. I will be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Bruce Dale will be joining me in studio tomorrow. That's going to be a fun one. At least that's the plan. I mean, these things can change, of course, on a dime, but that is the plan. Tomorrow, Bruce, my brother from another mother, my partner in crime, my best friend of nearly 30 years, my co-director, co-producer, co-writer of It's Me, Billy, will be in studio with me tomorrow. What will we be talking about? I don't know. Maybe a bit of everything and anything, but that'll be tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. So have a great rest of your Thursday, and I will talk to you guys soon. Alrighty. Cheers.